The moment the bouquet landed in her hands, the entire ballroom erupted with laughter and applause, but my heart stopped for a completely different reason. I had spent years convincing myself that some feelings were meant to stay buried forever, safely hidden beneath friendship and silence. Yet as I watched my best friend slowly turn away from the crowd instead of celebrating with everyone else, I realized something unexpected was about to happen. She wasn't smiling at the women around her. She wasn't looking toward the dance floor. She was walking directly toward my table, holding those white flowers like they carried the answer to a question neither of us had ever dared to ask. If you had spent years protecting someone you loved by pretending you felt nothing, what would you do when destiny suddenly placed your secret in front of everyone? The wedding was held in a beautiful vineyard outside Asheville, North Carolina, where endless rows of green vines stretched beneath a peaceful summer sky. My name is Michael, and I had known my best friend, Sarah, since we were children growing up in the same neighborhood. Her older sister, Rebecca, was finally marrying the man she had loved for nearly a decade, and I had been invited not just as a guest but as someone the family considered their own. For years, I had attended birthdays, holidays, graduations, and difficult moments with them. Somewhere along the way, Sarah had become more than my closest friend, but I never allowed myself to admit it. She deserved someone fearless, someone certain, not someone carrying the weight of past mistakes. 5 years earlier, I had lost my fiancée in a terrible highway accident just weeks before our wedding. The grief changed everything about me. I buried myself in work as a physical therapist in Tennessee and slowly built walls around every emotion that reminded me of what I had lost. Sarah never stopped checking on me. She drove across state lines when I refused to answer calls. She left homemade dinners outside my apartment when I claimed I wasn't hungry. She never demanded that I heal on her schedule. Instead, she quietly stayed beside me until surviving became living again. Everyone around us noticed how naturally we fit together. Friends joked about it during every gathering. Rebecca often smiled whenever she caught us laughing together. Even Sarah's parents treated me like another son. Still, I convinced myself that friendship was safer. Losing someone once had nearly destroyed me, and I couldn't imagine risking another heartbreak, especially if it meant losing Sarah completely. As the wedding reception filled with music and celebration, I stayed near the back of the ballroom, enjoying the happiness from a distance. Sarah looked beautiful in her emerald green bridesmaid dress, but what stood out most wasn't her appearance. It was the kindness she carried everywhere she went. She comforted nervous children before the ceremony, helped elderly guests find their seats, and somehow made everyone around her feel important. Watching her had always reminded me that goodness wasn't loud. Sometimes it simply showed up, over and over, without asking for recognition. Then came the bouquet toss. The unmarried women gathered together while everyone laughed and counted down. Rebecca tossed the bouquet high into the air, and after bouncing between several hands, it landed perfectly in Sarah's arms. The room exploded with cheers, but Sarah stood completely still. Instead of laughing or lifting the bouquet in victory, she looked across the ballroom until her eyes met mine. Time seemed to slow as she crossed the room. Every conversation faded into silence inside my mind. Guests watched curiously as she stopped beside my chair. She gently placed the bouquet on the table in front of me before sitting in the empty seat beside me. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Sometimes silence carries more truth than words ever could. Her eyes shimmered with emotions she had hidden just as carefully as I had hidden mine. She quietly admitted that she was tired of pretending that friendship was enough. Life had already shown both of us how quickly everything could disappear, and she no longer wanted fear deciding the future. She said the bouquet didn't feel like luck. It felt like a reminder that love doesn't always arrive when people are ready. Sometimes it waits patiently until they finally stop running from it. Her honesty broke something open inside me that years of grief had kept locked away. I confessed that every family holiday, every road trip, Every late-night phone call had made me love her more, but I believed protecting her meant staying silent. I thought my broken heart would only become her burden. Instead, she smiled through tears and reminded me that broken hearts don't always need fixing. Sometimes they simply need another heart willing to carry the weight together. The rest of the evening became less about the wedding and more about two lives quietly changing direction. Rebecca noticed us talking with tears in our eyes and smiled before looking away, almost as though she had been waiting years for that moment. Sarah's parents embraced us without surprise. They later admitted they had prayed for us countless times but respected our journey enough never to interfere. Dating after years of friendship wasn't effortless. We both carried fears that occasionally resurfaced. There were moments when memories of my past loss left me distant. There were days Sarah questioned whether she would always be competing with someone who no longer lived. Instead of hiding those feelings, we learned to face them together. Healing wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about allowing hope to exist beside it. Nearly 2 years later, we returned to the same vineyard. This time the chairs faced a different wedding arch, and I stood waiting with tears already forming before the ceremony even began. Rebecca walked over moments before the music started and handed Sarah the exact bouquet she had caught years earlier. The flowers had been carefully preserved and recreated as a symbol that sometimes the smallest moments become the beginning of an entirely different life. As Sarah walked toward me, I realized love had never asked me to erase my past. It had simply waited for me to believe that my story wasn't over. The deepest scars often become the places where kindness quietly plants new beginnings. Looking around at the people who had stood beside us through grief, patience, friendship, and hope, I understood that miracles rarely arrive with fireworks. Sometimes they walk across a crowded room holding nothing more than a bouquet of flowers and the courage to stop pretending. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, if you were sitting at that table, would you have found the courage to open your heart again, or would fear have kept you silent? Some second chances don't come wrapped in perfect timing. They arrive after heartbreak, after years of waiting, and after we finally believe that love is still worth choosing. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us kindness and courage can change a life forever.